Hare Krishna, welcome back to my channel. I am Radhika Piyari and today I am going to share with you the glories of Pandava Nirjala Ekadashi. Like all other Ekadashis, this Ekadashi is a little different in a way. It is actually kind of a compulsion to try to fast on this Ekadashi without water. All other Ekadashis, it is recommended that if one can fast completely, but on this Ekadashi, to get complete benefit of this Ekadashi, one needs to try to attempt to fast without water and food. So the story goes along in this manner that the Pandavas, among them the brother who was younger than Yudhishthir Maharaj, whose name was Bhimsen, he once asked his grandfather, Srila Vyasdev, that, "Oh, honorable grandfather, is there a way to go back to the spiritual world without having to completely follow the rules and regulations of the Ekadashi fasting?" Then he goes on explaining that everyone among his family, all his brothers, his wife Draupadi, his mother Kunti, they all very strictly and religiously follow each and every Ekadashi without having any food and water. But for him, especially because he is the son of Vayudev, it's very difficult. The digestive air which is there in his body, that makes him very hungry. So this makes it completely impossible for him to fast on each and every Ekadashi. Then Bhimsen says to Vyasadev that my family being so religious, they also suggest me, they request me to fast completely on this particular day. But because I am not able to keep myself empty stomach at all, I am not able to fast completely. Now, what should I do in order to get the same kind of benefit without having to fast? I can give charity, I can do any other kind of austerities, but to not eat is not possible for me. So Vyasadeva actually says to him that if you want to avoid entrance into the hellish regions and if you want to go towards the door of heavenly planes, you have to fast on the light and the dark fortnights of this Ekadashis. So Bhimsen then again replies to him that there is a fire in his stomach called Rika, and this fire, it is actually burning. It is always burning in his stomach. So he cannot even avoid eating once in a day. Then how can he avoid eating completely on a day of Ekadashi? Because only when he eats to its full satisfaction, the fire in his stomach that gets satisfied. So please help me to get the benefit of Ekadashi. I can possibly fast one time in a year. Please help me in such a manner that I can avoid going to the hellish regions. Srila Vyasdev replied that, "Hey Bhimsen, I've explained to you from the Vedic text different kind of pujas and ceremonies which can be performed in order to get a lot of benefit from them. But in Kali Yuga, to perform these kind of ceremonies or pujas is completely impossible. But the essence of the Vedic scriptures is such that one can perform fast on this light fortnight and the dark fortnight of Ekadashi, just performing a little bit of austerity by completely fasting on these 2 days in a month, and then get complete benefit what one can achieve by doing all these kind of pujas and ceremonies. A person who wants to walk towards the path of heavenly doors, they must try to perform this Ekadashis. Now, in the Bhagavatam, it has been explained that how when one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then they can achieve going back to the spiritual world. Similarly, this Ekadashi is such one kind of surrender. When one performs that, then they are able to destroy innumerable sins which they may have accumulated from their past lives or their previous actions. So that is why it is very much important for an individual to actually fast on these Ekadashis. Otherwise, they may have to face the doors of hell. Now, during this Bhimsen, he becomes very, very frightened because he feels that there is no option for him. So what happens is that he starts shivering and then he asks in frightened manner that Vyasadevji, what should I do? Like, I'm very, very scared. If I am not able to fast these 2 days in a month, like that, all these days of Ekadashi, then how am I going to go back to the spiritual world? And I will definitely have to see the doors of hell. So Srila Vyasdev feels compassion for him, and then he says that if you want to get complete benefit of all the Ekadashis, then you must fast on the Ekadashi which falls during the light fortnight of the month of Jyeshta, May, June. And on this particular Ekadashi, what happens is the sun actually enters the sign of Taurus, which is Vrishab, and the sign of Gemini, which is Mithun. So on this particular Ekadashi, you have to fast completely without even taking water. What you have to do is that in the morning time, you bathe, and then after bathing you take a little bit of achman. Now this achman should be equal to the drop of gold or the size of a mustard seed when it is dipped into water. Only that much achman has to be taken. Now any water which is taken more than that for, and this achman actually has to be taken for purification. So if this achman, if it is more than that water, then what happens is that it is considered equal to taking wine or intoxication on this particular day. And then he said that you should not even eat anything on this particular day, because if you eat anything on this day, then this entire fasting is broken. There is no meaning to the fasting. So this particular fast actually takes effect from the sunrise of the day of Ekadashi and then ends on the Dwadashi day, which is the next day. And one must perform this fast completely without water. Now, having performed this particular fast on Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi, one is said to get benefits of all the other 24 Ekadashis together. That is the benefit of fasting on this particular Ekadashi Nirjala. On the Dwadashi day, the person who is fasting on this Ekadashi, they need to bathe early, follow all the injunctions with rules and regulations, do the pujas and the ceremonies, what is needed, and then whatever ability a person has, then they should offer gold and water in charity to a qualified brahmana. Like this, the fasting will be complete, and then they must honor the prasadam. Further, Vyasadeva explains to Bhimsen that hear from me, from the Vedic scriptures, that what the Supreme Personality has to say about this. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says that anyone who fasts on this Jyeshta Shukla Ekadashi, which is the Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi, they get benefit of all the Ekadashi fasting. There are different kinds of merits one gets when they observe any kind of austerities, gives charity, give any kind of donations or any kind of ritualistic ceremonies which are done. But because this is Kali Yuga and the purity of this Kali Yuga is not that intense, so what happens is that a person, whatever they do not get the full benefit. But when one fast on this particular Ekadashi completely without water, then they will get benefit of doing all these kind of austerities, penances and charity. Anyone who gets the benefit of going to different pilgrimages, that kind of benefit can be easily achieved by just fasting on this particular Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. A person who fasts on this particular Ekadashi, they get enough wealth, grains, opulence, fame, and also very good health. So at the time of death, when a person is dying, the fearful moment where the Yamdutas approach, they are not able to approach a person like this who has fasted on Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. They actually are fearful to approach such a person. So that is why it is very much important to fast on this Ekadashi. The Supreme Personality of Godhead also says that one must actually fast on this Ekadashi, and after fasting this Ekadashi, after this life, then they are been taken by my messengers, the Vishnu Dutas, to the spiritual abode. And at that time, the person gets the same Swarupa form like me and is eternally residing with me while happily serving me. Now, after the Pandavas, when they heard about this description which Srila Vyasadeva actually explained, they also decided to follow the Ekadashi fasting of Pandav Nirjal in the similar manner. And that is why all the Pandavas fasted in this particular manner on this Jyeshta Shukla Ekadashi. Then Bhimsen replied to Vyasadeva that I will be fasting in the exact manner how you explained to me, and the next day on Dwadashi I'll be breaking my fast. Now Vyasdev also says that it is actually recommended for a person to give cows and water in charity on this particular Ekadashi. But if you are not able to do, or if someone is not able to perform this charity, then what can be done is that to a qualified Brahmana, little bit of like a pot filled with water and little bit of cloth should be donated to the Brahmana. That will actually give the equal amount of merit to the person. Along with that, the person should also bathe nicely early in the morning, chant the glories of the Lord, chant his holy names. Whatever sacrifices he wants to perform should be done on this particular Ekadashi, because that is going to make the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy. One who observes fast on this particular Ekadashi and also gives in charity the ingredients which were mentioned in their limited ability, whatever they can, then they certainly free themselves from the repeated cycle of birth and death. Observing this particular Ekadashi, which is merged with the Dwadashi, frees one from any kind of sinful reaction which a person might have performed, like killing of a Brahmana, not following the orders of the spiritual master, disrespecting the Vedic text, being envious of one's spiritual master. All these kind of sinful activities and the reactions from it can be nullified by fasting on this particular Ekadashi, because one certainly pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Observance of this Ekadashi also helps a person's previous 100 generations to get liberated and go to the spiritual abode. Even if in their family, if the person may have committed suicide, may also be guilty of bad character, all these kind of individuals also get liberated just by the person's fasting of this Ekadashi. One who simply hears the glories of this Ekadashi attains the transcendental abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. During the time of Amavasya, when an individual offers tarpana to the forefathers, especially on the dark moon time, what happens is this person actually achieves a lot of merit. But that same kind of merit can be achieved when one hears the narration of this Pandava Nirjala Ekadashi. So in summary, one should clean one's teeth properly, observe this particular fast without eating or drinking anything. The deity which should be worshipped on this particular Ekadashi is Lord Trivikrama. The next day, the Dwadashi day, one must also offer incense, flowers, and also donate the recommended charity items which has been mentioned. After that, one must feed the Brahmanas sumptuously, and then after that honor the prasadam. Then Vyasadevji ji concludes it saying that, O Bhimsen, please fast on this particular Ekadashi, which is a sin devouring Ekadashi, and which will purify you from all the sinful reactions and also from not fasting on other Ekadashis. So this is about the Pandava Nirjala Ekadashi. Usually, we talk about that one must perform the Ekadashi in their limited capacity. Yes, of course, everyone's capacity is not the same. But if we can stretch ourselves a little bit and try to fast on this Ekadashi without having to drink any water or food, then all the other 24 Ekadashis will be included in it. And hearing the narration of this Ekadashi especially pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the same time purifies our existence as well. So please chant on this particular day. If you're not able to chant loudly, then you can chant with a meditative mind and little bit lips moving. Read, hear, also hear the narration of this Ekadashi, and try to perform this fasting without water. Sometimes it's not possible, yes, but if you can try, that will be great. So I hope and all the best to everyone on performing this Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. I know in Kali Yuga we all need strength to do it. So I also pray to everyone that please bless me that I can try to perform the Pandav Nirjala Ekadashi. And I wish you all luck too. Thank you so much for watching. Hare Krishna.